Hello everyone. I wanted to take this time to do a video exposing Robert Reich. And those of you who don't know who he is the former labor secretary under the Clinton administration. And he makes a lot of good points in a lot of his videos and his posts, a lot of different things, but there are a lot of issues in a lot of the work he does. Now, I have a lot of respect for a lot of progressive activists, particularly in the economic level. I totally agree that there's been vast numbers of inequality. And it's not just him. I have greater respect for Richard Wolff, Chris Hedges. And at least Chris Hedges was able to stand up against the Democrats and endorse the Green Party. And even against Bernie Sanders, believe it or not. And I agree. Wall Street is crooked and corrupt. It's been deregulated. We have a horrible campaign finance system. But the problem, of course, with this individual is that there's a lot of truths that he doesn't tell you. He spins things around, and he likes to make the establishment Democrats look really good. And somehow he just wants to blame everything on McConnell and Donald Trump, and assuming it's the GOP that's the main problem. But yet, of course, when you look at these politicians like Pelosi, Schumer, Feinstein, the list goes on, Maxine Waters, Adam Schiff, they're nowhere near in a situation that they should be blamed. Having mentioned that, yes, I do believe that the GOP and Trump seem to have certain kinds of flaws that are greater than the Democratic Party. But I believe that both parties are about equally to blame for the problems we have here in the United States. Sure, Trump is missing out on a lot of issues. But then again, this is the individual who wants to pump Joe Biden. He wants to tell you he's the man for the working class. He's the man that's going to get the corruption out and stop the Trump evil Republican agenda. Even though his 40-something years in public service, he's been a disaster. He's been dismal. This is the man who voted for the repeal of Glass-Steagall that caused a meltdown in the late 2000s, voted for the Iraq War. What did he do, Joe Biden, to reduce income inequality? Hardly nothing. And what has the Clinton administration done? What has the Obama administration done? Hardly anything. In fact, Obama, his main problem was, I guess you can say he was another extension of Bush. More wars, more inequality, did little to reform Wall Street and break up the banks. He inflated another real estate bubble with these low interest rates and all the lending. And by the way, why isn't this guy even talking about the inflated real estate market? Why hasn't he brought that up as far as I know? And keep in mind, the bubble was reinflated under Obama, and Trump added more air to it as well. And not much is going to change with Biden, considering the fact that he appointed Yellen as a secretary, one of these Wall Street zombies. Think about it. And so Obama tried to bring in the Trans-Pacific Partnership, which Robert even admitted it was a disaster. He didn't do much to curtail immigration. I mean, Obama was a disaster. More wars in terms of the hope and change that he promised. And if you don't believe me, why do you think there was such a move and effort for Bernie Sanders? And even the Bernie people were admitting, in fact, that there was a lot of different election issues and fraud that was happening in the 2016 primary. Now, as you know, this is a professor. Think about it. These are the kinds of people who are misleading the young folks in America, and they're voting and behaving in the way that they are, largely are being influenced by these professors. Think about it. Berkeley, what does that tell you? It explains a lot. And let's just take a look at the problems of the state of California. The highest taxes, many of it which is very regressive. Businesses that are fleeing the state, a pension bomb. Companies are leaving in droves. Look at this right here. Do you think this is looking really good? California businesses are leaving in the thousands. What does this tell you, folks? And then, of course, he wants you to believe that, well, it's always the Republicans' fault. Think about it. And then you take a look at, this is a, let's see here, an image I have right here to show you since the 60s about poverty. Look at all this, the South, the Great Plains, these are the red areas, see massive reduction in poverty, but yet the West Coast were the areas that saw incredible amounts of poverty increase in comparison. And by the way, this doesn't even adjust for cost of living. So how do you explain that, Robert? Think about it. Now let's play his video, because this is a man who's also been desiring to pump more immigrants. We're assuming that the mass immigration we've had in the last 50 years basically was flawless. It was okay. You know, it's not really the main problem. So let's play some of the video.
The floodgates to lies about immigration. Here are the myths and the facts. Myth: immigrants take away American jobs. Wrong. Immigrants add to economic demand and thereby push firms to create more jobs. Myth.
Wait. First of all, yes, that may be true, but what about a lot of other facts that he doesn't tell you? Now, let's just take a look at this statistic right here. So this is from the Center for Immigration Studies, and you can see here, look, the labor force participation rate for immigrants versus US born, they certainly don't align with each other. Immigrants has been flat. For natives, it's been around 76 to 70%. How do you explain that? And what about wages? How come this guy is not telling you about wages? At least we could have a law that would prevent employers from paying foreign-born workers less.
We don't need any more immigrants. Baloney. The U.S. population is aging. 25 years ago, each retiree in America was matched by 5 workers. Now, for each retiree, there are only 3 workers. Without more immigration, in 15 years, the ratio will fall to 2 workers for every retiree.
Wait, so basically the reason that is the case is because American women are not having enough babies. Now, wait a second here. We have a pretty much an equal sex ratio. And the fact of the matter is that the birth rates in the US is below replacement level. Not to mention a lot of births is done out of wedlock. So why can't American women have more kids? See, he's not telling you this. He's misleading you. And of course, he actually believes that a lot of the trends happening to American women in the last 50 years has been pretty beneficial. And there's a lot of videos across YouTube that have been exposing this kind of nonsense. So why can't American women have more babies? Why do we need to rely on other foreigners to dump children into the United States? Think about it.
Which is not nearly enough to sustain our retiree population. Myth. Immigrants are a drain on public budgets. Bull. Immigrants pay taxes. The Institute on Taxation and Economic Policy released a report this year showing undocumented immigrants paid $11.8 billion in state and local taxes in 2012. And their combined nationwide state and local tax contributions would increase by another $2.2 billion under comprehensive immigration reform. Myth.
Which has in giving him more amnesty, right? So let's look at some of the charts and data so I can show you otherwise. So this is some information that I found here in the state of Nevada. You could see here, the English language learning student population is about 16.8%. And by the way, it's one of the highest in the United States. It's pretty sad considering we don't border Mexico. And then you have number of children in immigrant families is 243,000. And then children of immigrant families about 37.8%, despite the fact that only a fifth of the population of Nevada is foreign born. Think about it. So that's a pretty disproportionate amount. Now, do immigrants pay 37% of all the taxes? Or do they pay a much higher tax rate than the typical person in Nevada? I doubt it. That's just really, really sad. Do they pay 37% of the property and sales taxes? I don't believe it at all. Let's take a look at another form of statistic right here. You could see how in Nevada, we're leading in the percent of illegal and US-born children of illegals. Think about it. 22% in the share of the school-age population. So are illegals paying 22% of the property and sales taxes? I don't believe that. And let's take a look at this, 6% that are illegal. That's a very, very, very high number when you think about it. So what does this really, really tell you? I also want you to look at this right here. We don't just look at public schools, we look at births. And I believe a lot of that is publicly funded. So guess which city has among the highest rate of illegal immigrant share of births? Las Vegas, believe it or not. Similar to the levels of California. It's pretty saddening. And guess what? Illegals take up a largest percentage, perhaps, of all the immigrant births in Las Vegas. Now, certainly it's the highest in San Jose. A lot of these techies are probably not having enough kids, high cost of living. But their illegal share is about the same level as Las Vegas. Let's take a look at welfare use. You could see here, non-citizen households take up the highest level, and then native households go all the way down to 35%. This is pretty saddening, folks. So this guy is totally misleading you. And by the way, another thing I wanted to tell you, did you know that his state of California, now unauthorized immigrants are eligible for Medi-Cal as in health insurance to illegals? What does he think about that? What about the cost of public safety? What about the public charge rule? There was so much fighting against Donald Trump's public charge rule. Think about it. And speaking of public charge rule, let's see right here. The national policy signed by Bill Clinton in 1996 said that aliens should not depend on public resources. He signed legislation to require the sponsor of non-citizen to be requested to reimburse any income-based welfare benefits the non-citizens receive. So the Democrats, by the way, he was under the Clinton administration cabinet, they were against it. What happened? Well, I'm going to tell you later.
Legal and illegal immigration is increasing. Wrong again. The net rate of illegal immigration into the U.S. is less than zero. The number of undocumented immigrants living in the U.S. has actually declined from...
Okay, well, he does have a point. The net immigration into the U.S. has slowed down significantly. Trump, it was less than Obama, and Obama was less than Trump. That is a very good point. However, another thing I wanted to tell you about, we've been hearing this 11 million, 12 million for so long. It's hard for me to believe in it because there's a lot of estimates that prove, I believe one from Harvard, that states that we have 20 or 22 million illegal aliens in the United States. So I don't know where he's getting statistic. I mean, Pew Research is telling you, but it's really hard to believe. Now, yes, Trump can be intense with his rhetoric. People can sound like, oh yeah, we're having an invasion takes place. Yeah, I know a lot of that is overreactive, certainly. And I will tell you this, I do think it's wrong to blame America's problem mainly on immigrants. However, the fact of the matter is that it is the large corporations we should blame, but we still have to blame them for using immigrants for their own benefits against the American people. That is the main problem. My problem isn't the immigrants. My problem is the largest corporations and the wealthy donors who are behind this. In other words, if you are drag racing, I blame the driver. I don't blame the car.
From 12.2 million in 2007 to 11.3 million now, according to the Pew Research Center. Don't listen to the demagogues who want to blame the economic problems of middle class and poor on new immigrants, whether here legally or illegally. The real problem is the economic game is rigged in favor of a handful at the top who are doing the rigging.
Yeah, and why are they lobbying for it? Why are they pushing for it? How come he's not telling you this stuff? It's pretty disgusting in my opinion. So much lobbying money is going in. Why do you think Biden got so many more donors? What do you think it's all about? Is it just trade? Certainly, but a lot of it has to do with immigration. Businesses love more traffic. They want more population growth. They want cheaper labor. Think about it. And so this is pretty sad that he's not giving you the whole enchilada of the problem of what's really going on. Now, I want to show you something real quick. Let's take a look at this photo right here. So these are the people who are responsible. Now, as you know, Robert is tied with Move On. Move On is funded by Soros, but these are the guys who heavily pump immigration. Koch's fund right-wing organization, Soros funds left-wing organizations, but neither of them fund organizations that specifically focus on limiting immigration, particularly FAIR, the Center for Immigration Studies, Numbers USA. And they are the real dividers. They are the real elites. But let me tell you this. Why isn't Robert going after George Soros? Because again, he is part of the division. He's telling you the elites are running the world and controlling everything, but he's only giving you a lot of half-truths. And this is why our country is so divided. Yet he's the guy who's really behind the division and wants to blame everything, or at least a good chunk of it, on the GOP. This is pretty really sad. And I can tell you this, that not too long ago, the Democrats were for border security.
If you break our laws by entering this country without permission and give birth to a child, we reward that child with U.S. citizenship.
They were for limiting immigration because they were beholden to the labor unions. Remember Cesar Chavez? He was against illegal immigration. They interviewed Bernie Sanders like 5 years ago. Says, do you want open borders? He says, no, I don't want open borders. It's a Koch brothers solution. Well, what happened? He caved in and he pandered. And let's take a look at the numbers here in Las Vegas. And I'll show you this again in my future videos. You can see in Nevada, about 44% of immigrants of April 20th during the shutdown were unemployed. Why do you think that number was so high relative to other states? Because again, they were shutting down the casinos, and casinos disproportionately employ immigrants. They are the ones who benefit from cheap labor. They're the ones who lobby for it. MGM Resorts, Caesars, many of these companies, they are the real problem.
We need to pass comprehensive immigration reform, giving those who are undocumented a path to citizenship. Scapegoating them and other immigrants is shameful.
Yeah, so basically people who obviously broke the law, violated federal law, many of them who use fake social security numbers to get a job, they're the ones who should get a pathway to citizenship. And by the way, I know many illegal aliens who actually became U.S. citizens. I actually dated one of them last month or so. So, you know, there is a path to some of them, and it's just wrong to incentivize illegal behavior. It just really does not make any sense. So this guy is just asking for lawlessness. It's such a disgrace. And here's a number of things I also wanted to talk about. I've noticed he hasn't thrown the race card, and kudos to him, but I'm sure he has many times on his post. Yes, there are some Americans out there, and I've met them, you've seen the videos, who are concerned about demographics, but the fact is, look, these people, they're not going to want to go away. These people, they're not going to basically give up their beliefs. They want to live in neighborhoods that are people like them. It's human nature. You're not going to change their mindset. And the fact is, a lot of people don't like diversity. And it's not just Americans, it's not these evil white people. It's something happening all over the world. And by the way, a lot of these illegal aliens, they're visa overstays. So they had the chance to become citizens, but they refused, or they couldn't meet the requirements. Here's another issue that this guy doesn't also talk about. People who are immigrants disproportionately send a lot of money abroad, so that doesn't really help our economy. It pumps a lot of other foreign countries. So America is losing in economic activity. Not to mention, a lot of illegal aliens are able to get welfare programs because of anchor babies. And so keep in mind that Harry Reid was against this too. He hasn't even talked about the crime issue. Now, I will say this, that I think we can both agree that non-legal arrivals commit crime at a lower rate than people who were born in the United States, although I've seen other types of statistics. However, illegal aliens commit more crime on average than legal immigrants. So therefore, there is a problem with illegal immigration. And certainly sanctuary cities is wrong. It incentivizes illegal behavior, and it makes sure that perhaps a gang member who's here illegally is not deported. I mean, take a look at all these angel moms. This is a guy who advocated for sanctuary cities. Can you believe this? So now they can go back to our jails and then reoffend. This is why people are so misled. This is why people vote and have views on policy decisions that are so wrong, because they don't want to hear the other side, because people like him are misleading them. And then they throw this race card to make you believe, oh, well, you're wrong because what you're saying just sounds kind of weird and awkward. Therefore, you're a racist, you're a xenophobe, you're a bigot, whatever. Think about it. Is MS-13 really fake? And by the way, this isn't just a corruption issue. In addition to the fact that it's a lot of dirty politics, because we know that a lot of politicians love mass immigration because they're going to get future votes. It's going to create a political outcome, change laws, but they know that illegal aliens, non-citizens, fill up their districts, give them more power. That's why they fought the citizenship question, to increase their chances, and they can pander to them. They can play identity politics. So these organizations like Culinary Union, Mi Familia Vota, which I believe they're heavily tied with these large corporations, they can play the race card and get more votes. This is what they do. And in addition to the corruption problem, it's a resource problem too. Americans don't want to live in overcrowded cities, overcrowded freeways, overcrowded housing prices that are going up. Think about it. We're not building enough homes. We don't need any more people. Why isn't this guy telling you this stuff? Wow, what a disgrace. What about all the language issues? We have a guy like 25 million Americans who can't speak English very well, as far as I know. So if that number increases, how is he going to be able to do his videos? What languages is he using? He's using California English. So how is he going to go on with this if we're going to have more English illiterate people? Look at all the impacts on our public schools. I just showed you. So this is just a really, really sad part. Now, I want to also show you something real quick. Another thing he also doesn't tell you is about the automation aspect of it too. Or you can say the technology. And as you know, the Culinary Union is a pimp for immigration, for voting, for power, and all that kind of stuff. And their jobs are going to be disproportionately impacted by technology. And so even if we do get enough new jobs, I don't know if these workers or even their children are able to do it. But yet this guy is promoting basic income. So what does this mean? People who broke our laws are now entitled for basic income? Who's going to pay for it? Now let's just take a look at his Facebook page. As you can see right here, constantly doing the partisan blame of everything. It's McConnell. He's denying funds. Why is he denying funds? Could it be because Pelosi want to use some funds to incentivize ugly behavior in blue states and blue cities? Think about it. A $7 24-hour minimum wage. Look, I have no opinion about the minimum wage because it doesn't solve the heart of the problem. He needs to be focusing on reducing the pay between the top and the bottom. And a lot of these liberals don't talk about that. We don't have a law that says that the pay top and bottom ratio should be 1 to 30. So Senate Republicans just constantly blaming Walmart and Amazon $30 million in profits. Shop small, please. But again, why doesn't he go after the Democrats who are shilling for these people, who are not talking about it, like Pelosi, Schumer, a lot of these other individuals? Where is he on this? Think about it. Beware of going back to normal. Normal is going police brutality. So he doesn't want to open the economy. So he's saying, yeah, there's all this mass unemployment and evictions, but he's not willing to go back to normal. But if you want to remedy the problem, you need to go back to normal. People need jobs. You need the economy to go. And it's really these blue states that are suffering the most because these shutdowns are so draconian. In fact, the Supreme Court and all these other third parties are countering this thing. Normal is worsening police brutality. Give me a break, folks. Doesn't he tell you that Soros was funding many of these rioters? Normal is stagnant wages. Yeah, where were you under Obama and Clinton? Normal led to the coronavirus. And yet I've told you that other countries were doing worse. And how do you think Biden is going to be even better? What did he do under the swine flu? Think about it. Is Biden has a record of reducing income inequality? There was still a lot of violence and riots happening under the Obama years. It's just disgusting how misleading and how partisan and how so one-sided these people are. What you need to do is you need to make sure you take these videos, expose these people, and then you can finally make sure that perhaps, my goodness, the 3+ million followers they have, they wake up and smell the coffee. This is just really, really sad, folks.
The real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you.